18C, the issue no one is talking about, was back in the news this week.
Another internal brawl is looming in the government over its handling of the Racial Discrimination Act. A parliamentary inquiry has delivered no clear finding on the question of whether to change Section 18C.
This is a Canberra bubble issue. I mean, you go into Western Sydney and nobody will care about 18C.
North Queensland the other day, I'll be quite frank, they do not invite me into their shed to look around their packing shed and then say, now Barney, sit down in this chair, I want to talk to you about the Racial Discrimination Act.
Barnaby Joyce there, talking about the issue that nobody is talking about. Despite nobody asking, the government MPs came up with a compromise. According to the Australian newspaper, the plan seeks to insert a reasonable person test into the law so that applicants have to prove the offensive behaviour breaches the standards of ordinary Australians and not just the feelings of a narrow group. With more on this, I'm joined by ordinary Australian Tom Gleeson.
Ah, yes.
Hey, Tom.
Good to see you again.
OK, so, Tom, what do you think of this plan?
Well, this is such a sensible decision. You know, we can't rely on a narrow group of society to decide whether they're offended or not. We have to ask ordinary Australians to decide for them. Right,
so you're saying that to know whether or not a minority has been offended, we have to ask the majority?
No. I'm saying as a compromise, to find out if a minority is offended, we have to ask an ordinary Australian.
Right, and so who's an ordinary Australian?
I'm an ordinary Australian. You're an ordinary Australian. People who read The Australian, they're ordinary. It's a very ordinary newspaper, Charlie.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, if you want some very ordinary opinions written by some very ordinary writers, you can't go past The Australian.
Right. So how do you check if someone is an ordinary person?
Well, first of all, you ask them if they've heard of 18C. If they haven't, they're ordinary. And if they think 18C is a seat on a plane, you ask them which airline. If they say Jetstar, they're very ordinary.
Right. OK, so you're an ordinary person.
Yes.
Let's go through some examples, see if you find them offensive. All right. So what if I called you a wog?
That's fine, because I'm not one.
Right, well, what if I did this?
OK, that was extraordinary.
Oh, so you were offended by that?
No, just for a moment there, you didn't look ordinary.
Right. But how's this really going to work, Tom? I mean, the country can't come to you every time they think someone's breached 18C.
Yeah, well, I've thought of this. What we do is we get an independent panel of some of the most ordinary Australians we've got. Shane Warne, Warwick Capper, Paul Hogan, Josh Lawson dressed as Paul Hogan, and they sit down and they decide who gets to be offended or not.
Right, hang on a sec. That group that's deciding whether or not someone's been racially vilified is a group that are under no threat of ever being racially vilified.
Exactly. It's about free speech.
Right, well, does anyone else get a say?
No.